Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello and welcome to round 4 of the FindingSpeed GT3 League live on Apex Racing TV and on the FindingSpeed YouTube channel. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick and alongside me tonight is the brilliant Tim Cox. Sam Kumo is operating the cameras for tonight and we're here at Barber, our host for this round of Championship. Tim, not the most popular circuit amongst many drivers. It's one that I enjoy. It's a bit of a club circuit. We don't have too many of them sorts of in iRacing, mainly the Grand Prix circuits being added recently. But when you get into a groove around this place, it can be very enjoyable.
As you say, it's a classic club or national circuit, depending on which side of the pond that you're from and how you want to call it. Tricky to overtake around here, Sam. However, there are some opportunities, namely into turn 1 and also into turn 5 as well. That's where we're going to see the prime overtaking opportunities. But of course, with an hour-long race that we've got here, it's, you know, I would imagine there's going to be, it should be pretty orderly to start off with. However, when we start getting towards the end of the hour, I think we might start to see a few desperate drivers potentially, where they're starting to, they can see, you know, big gaps emerging in front of them where they feel like they're being held up, and I see a bit of forcing of manoeuvres, but qualifying is not too far away, and qualifying is going to be oh so crucial around here.
For sure. It's possibly the most important qualifying I think we have all season. It's going to be tricky to make your way up the order. You also want to be avoiding any incidents on lap 1, which are very common around this track. You can see Billy Fletcher at the top of the practice times, and that's usually quite a good indication of who's going to be at the top qualifying. However, Callum Reid-Guts has been so far the sort of informed driver this season. We should be able to show you your championship points. and it has been a close championship, a few different winners. Currently Dadswell up at the top of it. Callum Reed there in second place, so 1-2 for Altitude Esports. 12 points the difference. Grebstad still in play. He had a bit of a poor previous round, I believe, did Grebstad, but still possible for him to come back. And then Van Nylen, Billy Fletcher there, he missed the Sebring round. That's part of the reason why he's quite so far down. He's been very good besides that as Fletcher. And then Marin, Bree, Pudicom, Gannon and Flanagan rounding out the top 10. And then in the amateur stats, so you've got Chris Gooch at the top, and that is quite a handy lead at the moment for Gooch. The points for the AMs and the pros are given out separately. So in a way, it's easier to score more points than your rival. I mean, if you score a win over second place, then you're guaranteed to get 5 points, I believe. It's the point system. But you can't get, say, a bunch of pros between you. So it's sort of good and bad news for Crouch. He might be able to bring that back by the end of the season, but Gooch really just needs to finish on the podium in these last 2 rounds. Angelo there in third place, then it's Coco and Odoms rounding out the top 5, with lots of other places just behind being hotly contested. So still 2 championships very much alive to, and of course you probably haven't seen the previous few rounds. But Callum Reed Gartson has been so quick, and we've seen him in other leagues. He is an exceptionally quick driver, at least in these GT3 cars, I'm sure in all cars. But he did have a poor round at Imola. I think he also had one other poor round out of the first 3. And so Dadswell currently at the top. But honestly, I would put them pretty much dead level for the title, because Dadswell doesn't quite have the pace of Gartson. So, you know, Gartson, he's almost got it in his hand still. He could still catch up with these 2 remaining rounds of the championship.
Yeah, I did have a bit of a watch back through previous rounds, knowing that I was going to be covering just this one round, just to get up to speed with the championship. Excuse the pun, based on the name of said championship. But
Bravo.
yeah, no problem. Yeah, I mean, it's.
GT. So within the track confines, and we go through the super long right-hander, just goes on and on and on. We really need the setup to be correct in order to deal with that corner, and then slightly banked helps the car round to the left through the final corner. Our championship leader, our defending champion, Tom Dadswell, he goes to the top of the standings, albeit most of his contenders still yet to put in a time. Gartson's going to complete his first lap in a few moments' time. Pudicom there puts himself into P2, and you can see the gold and the silver. The gold indicating the pro class, and the silver indicating the AM. It looks like Dadswell is going to go back to the pits and get some tyres. Or maybe he's just calling them off, perhaps.
It is a bit of a technique, that of running them onto the grass to cool them down. I have seen that done. It's one of the more wider known sort of tricks of the trade within iRacing, and I'd say that's definitely what's going on here right now with Dadswell.
I've never seen it that obvious before. Have you seen someone dip a
Well,
wheel onto
I
the grass
suppose
on the corner entry? He's spending most of his time on the grass right now.
I suppose obviously with it being qualifying as well, generally you wouldn't see it during qualifying because obviously predominantly, especially in obviously the officials are definite, it's a closed qualifying, so you can't even go back and watch what other respective drivers have done, what lines they've taken, etc. So maybe this why it just seems it's something that we're just missing out on it, and it's being played out more heavily than what we believe it is.
Maybe this is the reason why I haven't been getting pole position. It's got to be that because the talent's there. Clearly, all this time has been running onto the grass in their second lap, cooling down their tyres, and that's why I haven't been getting pole position. So, yeah, glad to know that one. Glad it wasn't me. Gartson to the top. And that was his second lap time there, so Gartson invalidating his first lap time, but a strong second lap. He goes ahead of Billy Fletcher, but good to see Fletcher, because those two are teammates. Gartson usually with the advantage, but Fletcher can rival him on occasion and did win the first round of the championship, did Fletcher. He is only 2/100, so a second behind. Fletcher still to complete his second lap, Gartson just with one more. As Hopkins goes to the top of the amateurs, that's an excellent time, and puts himself ahead of Chris Gooch. And Gooch now actually back into the pit, so he is not going to set any more improvements. Fletcher also going for a cool down lap on that second lap, so he's going to sort of give up on this one and then just go hard for the third lap. Unlike Gartson, who of course messed up his first lap, so he had to push on his second lap. In fact, he isn't going to push on his third lap then, it seems, is Gartson. So I think that will be the end of qualifying for him. So Fletcher with one lap to beat his teammate.
It's going to be interesting, isn't it? And you see, definitely, it is a high tire degradation circuit this time. It's so easy because all the different corners that especially quite a few medium pace corners around Barber Motorsport Park as well, which really generate a lot of heat build up, especially on the left hand side of the car and the tires. And so what we're seeing, quite a few drivers, having a bit of a cool, one flying lap, then a cool down lap, and then going at it again for their third lap. And I suppose what we're going to see, let's just see what Fletcher's up to. Looks like he's on a bit of an improving one, so that's going to be an interesting one. Let's see how he gets on. Well, I say that, curse of the commentator, faster in the first sector and then slower in the second and slower in the third. So, yeah, apologies about that one, Billy Fletcher. Because the commentator there, and he's driving my favourite Lamborghini Huracan as well.
I'll try to uncurse it. I'll say that Callum Gartson has got this pole position in the bag, and nothing can stop him from this position. But in a fantastic time, and it looks like no one is going to be able to come close to beating him until now. And that is how you undo a curse, everyone. That was a brilliant job. Witchcraft. Billy Fletcher goes to pole position. Maybe that was bias. Maybe that was bias. I'm apologies. Maybe I've influenced the result there. Maybe I shouldn't be doing that. I'm sorry, guys. I knew that was going to happen. But Fletcher goes to the top.
I thought, no, we're just going to be undoing ourselves here. But, I mean, what a final sector from Fletcher. Absolutely pulled that one out of the bag. I mean, it's a personal best in Sector 1, Sectors 2 and 3. There were no improvement in, and then all of a sudden, the fastest final sector of anyone, and good enough to stick it on pole. It's wow, your reverse psychology definitely worked there, Sam. I wasn't having the faith, and I thought, Fletcher probably won't get on pole, and it'll be someone else that displaces the pair of them. But it will and truly work there, your reverse psychology.
Yeah, brilliant stuff there. Peck. Oh, running a little bit wide. He is currently last out of all the qualifiers and the only man still on track. And this is a legitimate lap time here for Alex Peck, so let's see if he goes to pole position. I'm not sure if he is, of course, that very tricky downhill chicane. Got to take all the curb on the kind of second parts of that triple chicane. So many unique corners. The curbs are very sort of attackable around this track. Yeah, should be a good challenge for these drivers. Like I said, one of my preferred circuits to drive, and hopefully it will produce good racing as well tonight. A quick shout out, of course, we are broadcasting this on the Finding Speed YouTube channel, and of course also the Apex Racing TV YouTube channel as well. This is also being sponsored by Asetek as well. So huge thanks to them. And yeah, like I said, being broadcast on the Finding Speed YouTube channel. iRacing and YouTube content creator Finding Speed provides broadcast community events, league racing, track guides, and how-to videos for iRacing enthusiasts. And make sure you join us for next Saturday for the final race in Season 4. This is the penultimate round. But next week, no week break. We go straight to the final round of the championship at Road America. And if you're interested in racing next season, then there will be some details about how to sign up. Or you can join the mailing list at FindingSpeed.com to hear about registration first. So yeah, awesome job from Finding Speed to put together another fantastic league here as we are about to start the formation lap. There's Billy Fletcher on pole position, 1/10 of a second clear of Callum Garton. Tom Deswell, championship leader, remember. I think he just needs 2 podiums in order to win the title. I'm not 100% sure about that one, but he is currently championship leader, and he has got a bit of a gap over Garton, so he just needs to make sure he beats Gannon and Cohen. He should be looking good. There is Gannon in 4th place. Then it's Pudicom, top of the AMs. Glenn Hopkins, I think that's the furthest up we've seen an AM on the grid this season. Chris Gooch right next to him, only a 10th of a second behind in qualifying. Then it's David Flanagan, Brack Crouch, Jose Barchala, Stein Van Nylen, Christopher Carlson lining up in 12th place. I expect Carlson to be moving up. Then it's Mateus Soto, Timothy Bree, Phil Reagan, Dan Mori, Scott Angelo. Expect Angelo to move up. He's 3rd place in the AMS members in the AM championship, so I expect him to be further up by the end. Then it's Matt Knudsen, Igor Bembik, Dennis Carter, Stefano Coccio, Alex Peck, and Ollie Morgan rounding out the 23 cars. You can see Morgan there, a pro driver. Also expect him to move up as long as he takes the grid, which he has done, which is excellent stuff as we start this fairly short formation lap here at Barber.
I think, yeah, Sam, this is where it's going to be interesting. You know, you're saying, you know, a few of the drivers a little bit out of position in the grid compared to their qualifying position. Obviously, they're against the position in the championship. Now, that's where it's tricky. And, you know, we were speaking before qualifying about falling foul of not getting in a solid lap time during quali, because it can really hurt you due to the fact it is a challenge to overtake here. Now, they've either got to be very brave on these opening stages to ensure that they stay with the cars in front of them, the people that they're battling with in the championship, or they run the risk of really falling off the back of them, getting held up in traffic. It's going to be interesting to see how those drivers play that one out.
Yeah, it's kind of picking your fights, isn't it, in an hour-long race. You don't want to be losing too much time when you're fighting battles that you're probably going to be losing anyway. And for the pros who are a little bit further down, got to get through absolutely quick as anything. The fuel limit, I believe for this race, is 70%. And so there's quite a bit of leeway for the fuel. This isn't a very high fuel consumption circuit either, because you've got lots of long radius corners, which are very kind of low fuel usage, because you can imagine kind of off dots or kind of just coasting the car into many of the corners. Also super hot track temperature. That must be mid-40s degrees Celsius, 115 degrees Fahrenheit. And so not much grip out there, which will again slow the cars down, again reduce the fuel consumption. So I'm imagining, Tim, basically, drivers will probably be able to pit about the quarter of an hour mark, maybe? Probably 20 minutes, certainly, they should be able to get away with to come into the pit. So if you are out of position, that early pit stop might be a good decision.
It could well be, Sam, you know, just playing that long game and tactics game. I mean, it is definitely a tactic available and one well worth using that you can benefit from massively here at Barber. Just the fact of, like you say, you know, just get yourself in some nice fresh air, track to yourself, get your, you know, the foot down, start pulling in some really strong laps and jumping people around you who pit less later by getting the undercut on them.
Yeah, watch out for that one. Among some of the drivers, particularly in the midfield. Out in the front, it is Billy Fletcher, who took the first race win of the season. He's looking to get a second one here tonight. He goes very early, midway through the final corner, and we are racing for an hour-long event here at Barber Motorsports Park. Fletcher leads them into turn one. Daswell was very close to the back of Gartson going through the final corner. Wasn't able to get the move done. A little bit wide for Pudicom just behind him, and just to get it stopped still for turn two. As we got a spin around, that's Dan Morey, who did not have a good qualifying in the first place, and that has just made it a lot worse. And he's going to have a lot of catching up to do now, heading into turn four, the major overtaking spot on this circuit. Is anyone sending it? The Lamborghini going a little bit deep of Gannon. He wasn't close enough to off it. Also, it's a Hopkins sliding about a little bit. We've got a couple of cars off. We've got 3 cars wide, it seems. Reagan, Bembick and Flanagan is the Ferrari on the outside of the circuit. Reagan drops down big time, and Flanagan even had to tow back to the pits, indicating he may have had a bit of steering down.
Well, we said about to watch out into turn 4 there, Sam, and it was a chance to try and make an advantage early on, so turn 5 even, and well, definitely some drivers having a good go at it, but not coming off success or something. But what that has done is it's meant that it's created some pockets of space between certain drivers. There's seeing a bit of an attack here from the Ferrari of that is Peck, sorry. Alex Peck, he's trying to get through the grid. He's had a good start, Sam. He's up 6 places. Likewise, Coco in front of him, and also Morgan behind him. Equally, all up 6 places, those 3 drivers.
Yeah, that's excellent work from them. And in the top 3, of course, no changes. And then, yeah, Pudicom up that 1 place so far, getting past Gunnon off the start, and then Van Nylen and Carson, the two biggest gainers in the top 10, up 3 places each. Gartson and Fletcher already getting away. That's why losing 1.2 seconds on that opening lap to the 2 cars ahead of him. And it is increasingly looking like it's going to turn into a 2-way battle. Peck with an issue. Now that is a shame, because he had a good start, as you were saying before, Tim. And that has all been undone. He's gone super deep there at turn 4. It's downhill. It's a really good overtaking chance. That downhill element of it extends the braking zone considerably. And so that is where most overtakes are going to be done. But Dan Moy's trying to end that. He has got a bit of damage though, Moy. I wonder if that'll be effective. Oh, change for the lead. And is that Fletcher into the wall? He is into the wall. The race leader, a crucial mistake, and he is going to have to come in for an early pit stop, surely.
3 wide in the background there, Sam, as well. Pudicom, one of those drivers, he's lost a few places as well. He's dropped around about 3 places. Van Nylen, he's had a cracking start as well. A couple of opening laps. He's up 5 places now, into 6, and really mixing up in this fight here and looking aggressive in that Audi R8 V10.
Yeah, really aggressive racing there. Also just seeing Carson, I think, getting underneath Hopkins just at the end of that shot. But here was what happened to our race leader, and he was probably out of the championship hunt already, just running wide onto the grass. And we were saying earlier on, actually, in qualifying, but I was surprised that and then there's the 36 being there. So that is why the 36 dropped places. And where is Pudicom now? Okay, still 7th place, so he didn't drop too much there. But yeah, I think that was all by himself. That was Pudicom. So yeah, lots happening down at that corner for the front runners. Fletcher with significant damage. He's lost his bonnet, and yet he is still racing around. Of course, not a very aero-dependent circuit this, but wow, I think if anything, that's good news for Dadswell, because I think Gartson, wanted his teammate to be between himself and his championship rival, but not sure if Fletcher's going to be able to beat Dadswell from here with the damage he's sustained.
Yeah, it's going to take an absolutely... Oh, there's a BMW off in the background.
Oh, and we've got another spinner as well. Pudicom rounds, and that was with... It's
with the yellow BMW, Sam.
Could it be... Was it Hopkins, maybe?
may well have been. Yeah, no, it was in front of him. So it was Carlson. Carlson Racing. So he was caught up. Hopefully this replay will give us some answers exactly how it all unfolded. So BMW, they're already carrying, Gucci already carrying damage, loses the rear end. Round he goes. Oh, there we go. So the BMW of Carlson took evasive action to the other spinning BMW, and then Pudikum was just purely the innocent bystander in all that. Got sideswiped by Carlson. And that's what brought game over for, well, not quite game over, but in terms of a strong race finish for Pudikum, he's now down all the way to 13th. Sam, it's been not the luckiest opening laps for him, of course. Caught up, you know, having to take evasive actions. Ooh, that's a lovely move around the outside. Don't tend to see those there.
Yeah, that's brilliant from Barcello, isn't it? He was super squeezing him there and managed to make it work. Podicom into the pits, no surprise there. He will not be able to go to the end from here. I was saying how the fuel should go far around this circuit, but I think you're going to need to make at least sorts of 18 minutes, I think, maybe even 20 minutes in order to get to the end of the race, and he will be well short of that. Got a terrific train around this part of the circuit. Kocho in front of it. Then you got Dan Mori, who had problems earlier on. I think Mori was the one who spun at turn 1. By the way, Chris Gooch also in the pits, but I think he might be towing at the moment. As Kocho having to go defensive, he's going to run wide. You know, though, if he can just survive around this part of the circuit, then he should be safe for pretty much the rest of the lap, because there's very few overtaking opportunities available to Kocho. Will be sending this one in. Mori gets his nose ahead on corner entry. He goes around the outside, and that was good, respectable racing from the pair. Then Mori up into, I guess that's 13th place overall, and crucially into a bit of free space, and they do not stop coming for Kocho. He's going to have a few more drivers nipping at his heels.
I know Mori, obviously we saw him, he lost the rear opening lap at turn 1, and I mean that's a cracking recovery. I mean he's now up 3 places from where he saw
leader off.
Was there contact ahead or something, Sam, or has he just lost it all by himself there? It is a little bit of a tricky corner, turn 2. Just saying about one of the other Porsche driver of Mori, who's, oh, he's into the pits as well now, so it's all happening.
Now I think I saw Dazwell was off track just a moment before, so I think he's run wide here, and yeah, and then he lose complete control of the car, and he's lucky not to hit the wall from there. Did well to keep control of the car, but when you're off the circuit in a long radius corner like that, it can take an absolute age to get back onto the track. And so Dazwell, who was gifted P2, has now got to catch back up to Fletcher and Gallon, and bad news for Dazwell. Fletcher's pace seems fine. It seems absolutely fine. I mean, it's not as good as it was earlier on, but I mean, he seemed about a second a lap faster than Dazwell earlier on. Even if he is losing a second a lap, he still seems to be a match for him as Mori tows back to the pits. He was off the circuit, and now he drops back down the order. No, that's a crucial mistake there for Dazwell, who a P2 here would have really gone a step further to the championship title, and now he's going to have to catch and pass the 2 cars ahead of him.
By the blink of the eye, this race could just flip on its head, and we've just seen it happen numerous times. It's almost like, Sam, nobody quite wants to be in the lead at the moment, and people dropping off, and I've seen a fair bit of action out of the final corner already. It looks like we've got a bit more on the hands here. Nearly a free wide.
They do well. Is the Ferrari just going to get underneath? Not quite. Kocho continuing to drop places. So remember, he was at the head of this train a couple of laps ago, and they're gradually moving their way through. Of course, lots of these drivers having problems earlier on. Peck was one of them. He actually went off at this very corner. I think just outbroke himself all alone. And he is trying to get underneath now. Of course, this was pretty much the exact same situation that Kocho was in just 2 laps ago, the last time that we saw him on screen. And last time he just broke a bit early, had the opponent driver go straight around the outside, and that is what happens again this time. So Peck up into 8th place in the AMS, and it's just Carter remaining then to get past Kocho, who is still up 5 places from his race start, so good credit there to Kocho, but he's just having these guys who had issues earlier on gradually make their way past.
I'll tell you what, so we've had some it's really topsy-turvy racing in terms of position gains. It's either been big wins, big losses, or you've remained roughly whereabouts you started. I mean, just looking at our timing stuff with their Peck, so far up 7 places from where he started. Let's not forget, he has yo-yoed around a bit. I mean, I did strike a bit of the curse of the commentators onto Dan Morey, who of course slapped that. It's been on the first quarter of the opening lap, then recovered all the way, pretty much back up to, I think it was 14th place, before heading back into the pit again. Clearly some damage on that car that's meant that he's been unable to carry on, or maybe even bent steering that's harming him. But there's, so far, Sam, out on track, there's only 2 drivers that haven't moved up or gained or lost any positions. That's Brett Crouch in 9th in the Ferrari, and 18th place Matt Nuston, the American, in the Porsche.
That's crazy how Crouch is in the same position. You consider everything that's happened in front of him.
Well, yeah, literally, he's right in the middle of everything happening around him, but still somehow the RPM Racing drivers remain in exactly the same place. I'm not too sure how he's managed that.
Oh, as Carlson has got past Van Dylen, and we previously had cameras on Carlson, he was gradually getting closer, and he has now made that move, and it looks like Van Dylen has made a mistake there. Can you imagine? Fletcher's now off the circuit. Fletcher with another mistake. He's gone deep at turn 2 this time, and that is going on up into 2nd place. He hasn't really done anything for those positions. He's up to 2nd place, and Daswell moves back to 3rd, and Gartson, who, again, this is the championship between Gartson and Daswell. Daswell currently ahead by 12 points. He would desperately like Gartson to have Fletcher between him and Dadswell at the end. And so if they're in the same Discord, I imagine he'll be having some harsh words right now. And now it's Fletcher who's going to have to chase down the car number 1.
Oh wow, it's all happening. The hotbed of action is that elusive turn 5, the tight left-hander in the middle of the lap, and actually quite a few drivers out this where we've seen most of the incidents happen, and Fletcher needs to compose himself right now, Sam, and his head back in the game, just set some consistent laps and then build on that and start bringing himself back up into the game. Just looking at where the track's roughly spread out. We were talking earlier about the potential for drivers pitting early. And the trouble is, I think he'll come out right out, funnily enough, in the middle of this battle if he was to pit now, which would be the last thing one, because you've got these 3 battling hard in currently over 6th place in class, 6th, 7th and 8th on the screen right now. Ben Bick, Regan and Peck, 13th, 14th and 15th overall, and the last thing that someone like Fletcher would need after this harrowing start to the race for him is to get caught up battling with the amps.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he does not want to come out in this pack or just behind and then have to make his way through. However, he has got that damage, of course. And I think we can assume he's similar pace to Gartson, can't we? And we're going to see a bit of side-by-side here. We've seen plenty of overtakes so far. Of course, the outside line just gives you so much more momentum, even though the other driver on the inside can just completely run you out of space. It's so narrow here. But these guys are very respectful to one another. This time there is no overtake, but I think Fletcher, from the clean laps I've seen him set, seems to be about half a second slower than Gartson, so I think we can assume that he's losing half a second.
Oh, no.
Now Carlson is into the wall. Second driver, he's dropped it on the exit of the final corner. He's hit the pit wall, and that is a lot of damage. I don't think he's going to be able to continue like Fletcher has been able to continue, even up to the pit window in 5 minutes time. He's in a very awkward spot there. That was good evasive action there from Brie, and you can see the Swedish driver really struggling. And it's a shame for Christopher Carlson, because he was not far off the podium places.
So I'm trying to have a bit of a look. I think that car might even be crabbing, or he's got steering damage of some sort. Is it the elusive grass that he's touched? It is. And that is purchasing that one-way ticket to the wall on the inside. The front end of that car is in a right royal mess right now, and yeah, you can see just even to keep the car in a straight line, you can see it moving around. I'm pretty sure there's some slight crabbing going on there, and that is not going to be enjoyable. He's just trying to bring the car back around again, surely to head into the pits as the Swede. And then the mechanics were set to work about fixing that BMW M4.
Does get a faster pack, so should yeah, we'll have that damage fixed. But I mean, 45 minutes, 70% fuel capacity.
It's just about doable.
Yeah.
With a bit of fuel saving, although it is quite hard to save fuel around here. Oh, I thought he got carried on then straight at the corner, but no, he's into the pits. Sorry about that, Sam.
Oh, we've all done it. And we've got a third one, number 3. Soto is the next, and he's kind of made matters worse there by reversing into the pit wall as well. And you can see he's lost his point. Now that damage looks similar to what Fletcher got. Nah, he's grabbing his knee, so that's going to be another pit stop for him, unfortunately. You're right, I think maybe you could do it under fuel save. I remember one of my few races I've ever done here was in the DJFX Endurance Series, and I think we absolutely nailed the safety car, where we were like a minute behind, and then after the safety car, because we took our pit stop just before the safety car, we were like 20 seconds in the lead, I think. It was absolutely fluky, question the rules. Unfortunately, we didn't quite have enough fuel to get to the end, but we did still finish P3 with a lot of fuel saving. That's my only experience around here. I don't think that's relevant for the race, but I did just want to point out I did want to get a podium in something. Fletcher is into the pits, so that's a sign then that you can now get to the end of the race. Fletcher coming in as early as possible to get that damage fixed. And so, yeah, that will be close then for Carlson. You'd imagine he will be able to make it if Fletcher's already pitting. And so, yeah, Fletcher, no brainer, get the damage fixed, and he should be much faster from here on in.
Yeah, I mean, it might be potentially being one lap too early for Carlson. However, Sam, over the course of the next, 40 odd, just over 40 minutes remaining, it is just about possible. As I said, it's not, not the easiest track to fuel save on, but it is also, you can fuel save around here, especially with that amount of time of racing left. So even if it is still, at the moment it's looking like he can't make it to the end, Carlson could extend out his fuel and bring the car home, and that's going to be interesting. As you said, Fletcher now taking his pit stop. He's come out in 10th place, Sam. So he's the leader of all the cars that have pitted. It's going to be interesting to see utilising him as a bit of a benchmark to however people come out around him, and just how powerful that undercut is going to be.
Yeah, I wonder if Dadswell now comes into the pits and just tries to keep track of position. I doubt he will. I don't think that'd be a very smart strategy. Of course, the fastest way to get to the end, theoretically, is to run the tank dry in this stint, and then take, of course, the minimum amount of fuel at the pit stop, because then you're on the least amount of fuel for the entire race. However, of course, these cars aren't very fuel sensitive. It's not like a mid-2000s F1 car where you put an ounce of fuel in and you lose a second a lap. You can still keep your pace fairly similar, even if you do add an extra probably 40 litres or so that these drivers will be, well, actually probably, yeah, probably slightly more than that, probably 50 litres of fuel the drivers will be adding to their tanks. See Hopkins now just 7/10 of a second ahead of Barchala. We saw Barchala pull off that super move around the outside at the penultimate corner earlier on. I hope we see a similar move coming up soon. He was 0.3 of a second faster on that last lap, and he is now, well, you can see for yourself, he's about a car's width behind.
He's definitely hunting down Hopkins in front of him. Two of the more popular GT3 cars on the iRacing service, because the Ferrari and the BMW. And of course, yeah, everyone seemed to be driving the BMW last season and obviously the first season that came along. Of course, a new toy for us all to play with. Always, any car is always heavily popular. You see that across any different series that brings a new car around. However, you know, it then became very good because it's incredibly good across the bumps and very easy to drive as well. Of course, the Ferrari's always heavily popular due to the Ferrari Challenge series that comes in at Class D, and a lot of drivers wanting to get into GT racing. As speaking of racing, here we go up the inside for the Porsche of Dudswell against Gannon, and that's the move done potentially here. Oh, against the Lamborghini, Dudswell up into second.
Yeah, what a good move, or what an important move that was. I mean, it wasn't particularly tricky, it seemed, for him. Just got close coming out of the turn 4 crest, and not much defense put up by Gannon. And that is, yeah, absolutely crucial for Daswell there. Not only is it a position, it also enables him to have some clean air, try to keep the gap over Fletcher. Remember, Fletcher already coming into the pits. When he came into the pits, Fletcher, he was a couple of seconds behind Daswell. So Daswell needs really good pace now up to his pit stop in order to keep that position. And I assume he will just keep on pounding around those laps for probably another 20 minutes, honestly, until he has to come into the pits. He's only 8 seconds behind Gartson, but of course it's tricky to tell how hard Gartson is pushing right now. 22.2 there, Gartson, 22.3 for Dadswell. So if that is all Gartson has got, then that's very good news for Dadswell, but I can't help but feel the race leader is just calming down right now as Barchala comes into the pit. So he's gone for the undercut on Hopkins, but that is a very, very early undercut. Reminder, the drivers probably have another 20 minutes worth of fuel on board, but he's decided to pit early on in his race.
Oh, you could have been playing the alternative tactic here, Sam, of running with a much lighter car, being competitive on the early stages, making up plenty of places, and then obviously, you know, pitting earlier on, filling up the car from there. Yes, knows that he's going to be compromised because he's going to have to spend longer stationary, putting more fuel onto the car, and that definitely seems to be what's happening right now. I mean, Fletcher was stationary for 12.5 seconds. Barchala already been stationary for 30 odd seconds. I'm now actually wondering, Sam, whether he's got a problem, because that fueling should have been finished by now. I think it was 40 seconds. Sort of overtaking move there.
Yeah, that was just Reagan ahead of Peck, but here comes Peck again. Reagan on the outside. Peck is getting alongside, and he gets it done. Late on the brakes, but very tight on the inside. Peck ahead of Reagan. Now, was that an overtake? I believe it was an overtake because Peck was 0.3 of a second faster than Reagan on that last time round, and Carter is now just behind, so I think Carter will soon be passed. He was half a second faster than Phil Reagan on the last hot circuit. Reagan is usually at the top of the amateur, struggling a little bit tonight so far, but I'll come back to him later on. But yeah, that pit stop for Barchala, seemingly a 30-second penalty. I mean, he was stationed for 29 seconds longer than Carlson. So I imagine a speeding penalty, and they cost you very badly. It's annoying as well. It's like the shortest pit lane we go to this season. You only lose like 15 seconds, I think, trundling down it, and so to lose 30 seconds for a penalty as you're entering it is hugely costly, and that has probably ended any chance at winning the amateur race. Huge shame for Barchala because he was driving very well.
Yeah, the Spaniard had an absolute flying start, and all got done, but the one penalty costing him dearly. Just keeping half an eye on well, especially these two out of this group of three right now, Peck and Reagan. They've scrapping for the last few laps, Sam, and only 7/10 of a second separating them as they just come through turn 7 there. And I believe that corner was inspired by the corkscrew at Laguna Seca, the way which was modelled. A lot of the corners in this track were inspired by other famous corners from around the world.
I read, I mean, my favourite website in the world is racingcircuits.info.
Yes.
And I did read about the stuff, and I can't remember anything about this circuit, apart from it was designed with sorts of motorbikes in mind, and also you got, of course, you got the famous spider, but I think you got like, is it like an octopus or something? I think there's 4 monuments. I don't know if you call it monuments. 4 kind of creatures, I think, around the circuit. Yeah, sculptures, there you go, that's the word I'm looking for. and I can't remember what the other ones were, but in my mind, I'm going to imagine it's an octopus, let's say a beaver, obviously a spider, and I don't know, maybe a dinosaur, perhaps. I'm not sure. I may have to check on those ones, but I think they're scattered around the circuit. And yeah, when you visit here, it's quite good to try to get a photo with each.
So I found that section for you, Sam. I was scurrying away while you were padding out there. There's no beaver, Sam. So
Okay.
I don't know whether you've seen the beavers about, but there's obviously a giant spider, dragonflies, a pair of lions, and a Sisfine figure pushing a boulder. I might have butchered that name. Sisfine? Not even sure what that is. I'm gonna have to Google that one. Of course,
Sisyphus? Sisyphus. Is that right?
That's incredibly one slip of the tongue away from being something very, very different.
Well, I learned about that in like last semester at university. A bloke who was like had to like sent to hell had to push up a boulder a lot. So I think that's
yes,
what that
he's
is.
pushing a boulder, pushing a boulder, so that would make complete and utter sense.
Excellent. There you go. I don't know why you'd want that. I mean, I don't know. But there you go. It wasn't a dinosaur, unfortunately, guys. Maybe that could be the fifth thing that they had. But that is our trivia for this second. Oh, I can see a move from Carlson to turn 5. Made very easy there by Knudsen, who opens up the corner, and Carlson up to 16th place overall.
And versus Pro there, and Carlson, obviously having taken that earlier pit stop as well, Sam. Now, also Billy Fletcher, he came back out into, he's another driver who pitted early on. He came out in 10th. He's now up to 9th place. There's Regan now fighting with Carter. Regan was previously all over the back of Peck, but since dropped off him, that gap's extended out to about 2 3/4 seconds, and Regan and Carter really falling off the back of their fellow countrymen. You can just see up the other end of the straight there with a yellow rear-ended Ferrari, and Carter trying to give Regan a bit of the hurry up here, but this is where it gets a bit challenging. Obviously, it's a tricky circuit to overtake on, and also you've got 2 BMWs, so they're going to be they're identical in their performance, and they're going to be strong at the same parts of the circuit. So it could prove to be even more tricky for Carter to make his way past Regan.
I think Carter's been quite cautious so far in this race. He was the last driver to pass Kocho. I believe it was Kocho earlier on, who was holding up some drivers. There goes Carlson, and that is on Soto this time. So he's got some damage. That's a lot of damage on Soto's car. Has Soto, I guess, hasn't pitted yet. I don't know why he hasn't come into the pits, Soto. Come into the pits now, mate. Get that fixed. And you can go to the end of fuel, but he seems to be happy to continue. And Carson now with 30 seconds up to the next pro driver, but he hasn't got far to move up to Kocho just ahead. In fact, he's going to be catching him probably on the next lap. Knudsen the next to get past. Knudsen with the famous profile picture. We've spent a lot of time talking about this. He's got some toes as his profile picture. I don't know what emotion that evokes for you, Tim. If you could sum it up in one word, how you feel when you look at that picture. Because for me, it would be uncomfortable. There's something about it I don't like.
Yeah, it's bespoke, unique, alternative. However, this is also a driver that has... oh, no, that's Fletcher around again. And I think it's at a similar place to where he lost it last time, Sam, and he's kept it out of the wall this time, though.
Yeah, he is... he's struggling out there, isn't he, Fletcher? He's going to get P2 in this race. He's made it very tricky for himself. That has probably dropped him now behind Dadswat and Ganon in that battle for P2. Once again, reminder, if you're just tuning in, he came into the pits, did Fletcher because he had damage at about the 16-minute mark. Pitted as early as you possibly can to get to the end of the race. You can see Carlson Gooch, Archala, Pudicom, the other pitters so far. He's actually picked up some damage, hasn't he, as Fletcher? I think that's just hitting a curb, but there's a little bit of damage on that front lap.
Oh, there is indeed. I'm looking at his lap time, Sam. Obviously, excluding this trip around the circuit, so lap 21, sorry, the previous lap. Other than that, I think it's just that it's come back where he's just pushing so hard. On the previous lap, he was half a second quicker than Garton, and himself and Garton and Gannon were the only drivers in the 1 minute 21s, with both Gannon and Garton being in the high 21s. That's why actually his lap was 1:22.3, as he's just popped in with a 1:21.7 there. But yeah, definitely Fletcher was a man on the move and trying to make up as much time from that early pit stop and being in such open traffic. However, spins like that is certainly not going to help him whatsoever.
No, yeah. I mean, he's maybe the fastest man out there. I mean, he got pole position, didn't he? He was fast in practice. All across the gravel there as Rembic is simultaneously losing a place. That is Carter, keeps it out of the wall. Carter's quick. Carter actually, on the previous lap, set the fastest lap in the amateur category. However, he is right now, gosh, I'm trying to figure out how far behind he is off the race leader. 34 seconds off Hopkins. And so Carter's just been mired in traffic. I don't want to, and this is a very harsh label, he is becoming Bottas of the series. Very quick, but he cannot, for the life of him, get past. This is a tight battle, look at that. Carlson gets ahead of Kocho. Kocho fighting that one. I think it was a losing cause, seeing that it got 30 minutes to go. Kocho's still got to make his pit stop. I don't think he was ever going to finish on top in that battle, but boy was he trying to. He squeezed Carlson to the inside, and Carlson was very sensible there, got it stopped, got to the apex, and Kocho running wide there, giving him that 14th place now over.
So I'm amazed the way that those two came steamrolling into turn one. That there wasn't any contact between the pair of them. It was absolutely amazing, really. And I've just I've got a bit of an insight into the game radio. Garton not overly impressed with Gooch right now. Obviously, where Garton is coming around to lap Gooch, he's too impressed with that. We've got Peck into the pits here, Sam. It's going to be an interesting one to see where he comes out in relation to Carlson. I think Carlson's actually going to get past him. Yeah, there we go. You see him just coming round through the final corner. That means that Peck is going to come out behind Carlson.
Ooh, was Fletcher just his connection dropping out? Hopefully he comes back. I think I was racing a driver the other day who seemed to glitch out for about a minute, still reappeared, so hold our breath here for Fletcher. Got Angelo, is he off the circuit? No, he just ran a wheel off onto the grass. Whenever the position box, by the way, lights up red, that indicates that a driver has gone off the circuit, and that's according to our system, not necessarily an off track. Doesn't necessarily mean they've gone all four wheels off the circuit. I think it basically means that they've gone, the centre of the car is beyond the white line. I think it's pretty much how it's measured. So sometimes, usually, it's no biggie, but if you see that red light on for a while, it's usually a bad sign. This is not looking good right now for Fletcher. He is still glitching out. I'm not seeing him leave the server yet, but is potentially very good day. Pole position. It's gone very bad for him.
Certainly has indeed, and Carter into the pits as well now. Being fed up at looking at the rear end of Regan's BMW M4. He's elected to pop into the pits. Hopefully he's going to come out in a bit of fresh air. Just looking at it, Sam, I'm a bit worried for him. I think that Carter may well actually no, apologies. I thought he might come out behind this group. We're just looking at the moment, but actually if he's going to come out right behind them and being behind quicker cars, it may well be that
Oh, long stop.
It is a really long stop at 18 seconds. He's back up and running once again. He is going to come out in clear air, though. Actually, Barchala is going to come out. He's going to come out right in front of him, actually. By the looks of things. Ooh, he's having a right go with Fletcher. Right, well, no. It's not Fletcher behind him, sorry. I think Fletcher has gone here, Sam. Yeah, he has. He's gone. He's dropped out
Yeah,
due
he's
to
well and truly out.
internet. So he has gone now. That's absolutely going for him.
Yeah, that's remarkable how. I mean, to be fair, at least that didn't happen before he made all the mistakes. Now he's like, oh well, I would have lost connection anyway. So you know, oh, as we see Van Allen, he's trying to get past here. And as someone who was racing in the Indy cars at Long Beach last week, I really do feel for drivers who do not let, or really dislike drivers who do not let drivers pass with the blue flags. However, the iRacing rules are that you do not have to slow down. The blue flag is just advisory. You should be aware that there's a fast car behind, and you shouldn't fight them, but you don't have to lift off the throttle. And that is what Barchala is doing. And even despite the damage, he's very quick, is Barchala. And this is really hurting Van Nylen right now, who hasn't got Hopkins too far behind, only 4 seconds behind us Hopkins. I don't think he's going to get him into turn 1 either. He is going to have to go for a big send here if he's going to make this move, is the Belgian. Here he goes into turn 1, and again he has to wait past. And this is where, if you're a lapped car, you just got to knock the throttle. You know, you've been ahead for a lap now. Just let them go. Don't lose too much time yourself, because in the long run you're going to lose time yourself, because eventually, you know, Van Nylen is going to go for a move and it's just going to force Barchala offline.
And to extend on, you know, you mentioning about the iRacing rules there as well, Sam. As the car behind, it is your duty to pass safely. You know that's part of the rules within iRacing. So this is where it gets even harder and even more tricky, especially at a circuit like this where there's no massive, a long straight followed by a big braking zone where you can pull the car out alongside you in the slipstream and get the move done. It is so tricky, and you have to be hopeful of the compliance of the drivers that you're coming round to lap to, like you say, just maybe lift off on the entry into a corner around here to 5 and 1 would be those key areas to maybe just just get out the throttle a bit. Yeah, even if you remain on the racing line, just to facilitate the pass, let them go, and then just sit behind them. Equally, I mean, Barchala, that damage to his car is going to be really hurting him in terms of his straight line speed, and also it's going to be costing him more in fuel. Now, as you mentioned earlier, Barber is not a heavy fuel usage track. However, he could potentially sit behind Van Nylen and just sit in this draft and save a bit of fuel to ensure that he definitely gets to the end of this race.
Yeah, that would be a very sensible decision, wouldn't it, if he did that? But no inside of him. And if anything, he was almost defending into turn 5. He was, maybe that's just his line. Maybe he was just trail braking, trying to V the corner. But he was certainly maybe around in the braking zone, and this is costing Van Nylen. It might just be best for Van Nylen just to call quits and just say, okay, I'm just going to come to the pits, especially with the further traffic that's coming up. Soto now with a mistake. We've already seen him spin at the final corner. Soto has, yes, he has made his pit stop. He made his pit stop on lap 25, so a few minutes ago to Soto. So he does not want to pick up any damage. He has got some damage though. He will not get that fixed from now to the end of the race. He's already used his fast repair has Soto. But he has got 35 seconds now to catch up to Barchala ahead. We haven't really been talking about the race lead. It has been coming down. It was at about 8 seconds at one point. It's down to 3.5. I honestly thought Gartson was gone with Fletcher out of the race. Daswell has gradually closed in, which is really odd because in the first couple of laps, he was sprinting away. In qualifying, he was half a second clear of Daswell and Ganon. And yet in the race, Gartson is slower than these guys, and by the time we get into the pit stops, Dadswell might be within undercut region.
And this could well be down to something. We mentioned it earlier, and we saw a bit of it during qualifying, is how hard you're working your tyres, how aggressive you are with your steering inputs, and how you're able to preserve them as the race has gone on. Those that have been able, a bit more gentle on their tyres, less aggressive on the throttle, will find now that they're starting to really becoming, even more competitive, because obviously with the more heat build-up that you have in the tyres, the increased wear that you get, especially from being more aggressive and a high-tire deck circuit like Barber, you then find yourself really, really struggling and having to almost, it's a bit counterintuitive because you have to almost under the drive of the car to allow the tyres to come back to you a bit, but invariably, a lot of drivers tend to end up pushing the car, chasing that, lap time that they were able to achieve previously, which is adding even more heat into the tyres and increased wear, which is just playing to the car behind you even more so, who's been more conservative on their tyres and is able to catch you at an even quicker rate of knots.
Yeah, it's really important, isn't it, that you don't overdrive the car, that you don't drive to a lap time, that you just almost turn off maybe your lap monitors and just, drive to what feels comfortable in the car and a limit where you're not scrubbing the tyres too much. And of course, there's no long straights to cool down the tyres on this space. Once you overheat the tyres, that is pretty much it. It's going to take a while and a few laps of conservative driving in order to cool them back down. So up to 41 minutes now. This is how long the fuel goes. Percent fuel. Should go maybe an hour of full tank around this place. And so you can imagine 70% I guess is 42 minutes-ish. So very soon, basically. Expect all the pit stops, certainly in the next 5 minutes. But none of the top 3 pitting so far. Daswell caught by another 0.2 of a second on that last lap, and that was despite having to deal with Kocho there as Crouch comes into the pits. That is from P2 in the amateur class. He was about 3 seconds behind Hopkins, I believe, so keep an eye out on when Hopkins comes into the pits. Hopkins gets a bit delayed in the pit stall, then that might be enough to switch those positions.
What I'm keeping half an eye on, we haven't mentioned it for a little while since he was wearing some absolutely extraordinary overtaking news, is the Swede Carlson in the BMW. Currently 11th overall at the moment, Sam, sitting 6th in the Pro category. And it's just where, because Bembik's also come in as well, it's where Crouch comes out in relation to Carlson. Now, obviously, Crouch is an driver, Carlson being in the Pro category. And Crouch has actually come out in front of him, and actually, in terms of track positions, hasn't lost too many either. I mean, he's come out in third in class and 8th overall. So Crouch has had a really, really good, first nearly 3 quarters of the race.
Yeah, and he was that driver in the early stages, of course, that we were saying hadn't changed position, which kind of indicates how consistent he's been. He hasn't made any mistakes, unlike most of the drivers out on circuit. So yeah, really good job from him, and P2 is looking likely, which would be a good result. Maybe still the win. Of course, Hopkins currently leading that class, but is catchable. Angelo now into the pit, so we're certainly into sorts of as far as the drivers are pushing to the limit of their fuel tanks. It seems Gartson is currently halfway round a lap, as Barchala is now ahead of Peck. I think that was a move there. Carter is still behind Peck. Carter really struggles with the overtaking. He's so quick, and yet he just seems to get stuck behind drivers. In fact, actually, he's catching up to Peck, so he hasn't been behind him for too long. But he will need to make that one quick, as Angelo coming out of the pits. And now we've got the top 2 into the pits. Can Gannon go in an extra lap? No, he cannot. So it's down to how much fuel they take now. The gap was down to about 2.5 seconds between the top 2, with another 2 seconds back to Gannon, as we wait to see what the pit stop times are.
The interesting one is Van Island, 4th place car, whether he's able to go around for a trip around this circuit, but it's going to be interesting to see how these 3 come out. It's just got this Regan in the BMW heading out. There's Van Island, he's in as well now, Sam. So our top 4 all in. Garton first away, followed by Dudswell. Looks like then Gannon, so they come out exactly how they went in.
I don't think there's been any change in the gaps there. Oh, look at the traffic though that they're in. Gosh, that's bad news for Genon. He's going to have a couple of extra cars to deal with, and he gets really held up straight away. Gap between the top two, 2.9 seconds. So, I mean, we're talking tenths of a second. So Garton took half a second less fuel, it seemed, than Dadswell, and Dadswell took half a second less than Genon. So it sort of extended out a little bit, but not by much. Still catchable for Dadswell, and in fact, actually, these two managed to get ahead of all the traffic. Well, Dadswell's got one car to deal with, but Gartson managed to avoid any of it, so that was not deliberate there, that was all luck. They pushed it as far as they could with the fuel, but that's good news there for Gartson, helps him along a little bit.
Again, he actually had the slowest stop of the three of them. Also, Coco in the moment. Hopkins and Bray, they managed to keep on going again. So they've managed to pad out their fuel, both BMWs, for an extra lap, Sam. Hopkins obviously the leader in at the moment, and based on my calculations, Sam, I think he may even retain that as well. Well, he's just coming into the pits. Let's find out. Crouch currently in second place in 7th overall right now in the Ferrari for RPM.
I think the gap was 3 seconds before, wasn't it, that Hopkins was ahead? I think it's about 3 seconds. So as long as those in-laps looked alright, I mean, he was in a bit of traffic, but it seemed alright, so it could be close here. How quick was Crouch's pit stop time? 12.78, very average for Crouch. So Hopkins just needs to make sure he doesn't get held too long here, and he should retain the lead.
Should do indeed. Here comes Hopkins. Is he going to come out? I think he is going to hold on to this. Well, no, Sam, this is going to be incredibly close. There, you can just see it looming in the background. Is the Ferrari of Crouch, and that gap is now, well, it's reduced by about a second. It's down to 2.
Race on. Bree still 11 seconds behind. Apologies, not 11 seconds behind, that's to the next pro driver. He is 5.5 seconds behind. You can see him. And Carlson 3 seconds behind these guys and catching the break. Could Carlson get all 3 of them by the end of the race? I'd be pushing it. I mean, he's got 8.5 seconds to Hopkins. Might be possible. So watch out for Carlson. He might be a bit of an extra factor when it comes to the final couple of laps between Hopkins and Crouch, as in fact Carlson at threat of being overtaken here. And that is by Scott Angelo just behind, but I think that's Carlson just establishing that move. He should start pulling away from Angelo.
He's just in that one stretch there, Sam. He's already pulled nearly 3 full attempts on Angelo in the Audi R8 V10. Don't expect to see Carlson now continuing that vein of form and pulling away. So I think Carter's actually, oh no, I thought initially he made it past Peck, but I think they swapped back again now. So you're saying about Carter unable to
Change for the lead. Gartson, what's happened to Gartson? He's gone back to the pits. Has he towed back? Has he crashed? I didn't see him off the circuit. But
he's come off track somewhere, Sam. He has come off track according to our fabulous timing software. SDK Gaming.
Wow.
He's,
this could be the championship for Tom Dadswell, because Gartson needed to win the race, really. He certainly couldn't afford to lose points. And there you can see he was already losing the car. Then he got onto the grass, hard into the wall, also into the front left corner. I think he made most of that contact. And that is a crucial mistake. And Tom Dadswell, after making a mistake himself, he dropped down to 5th place in the early stages. But the car number 1, the defending champion, has surely got the championship in the bag now. He is leading here at Barber Motorsports Park. That's great news for him. Carter is having a mare, meanwhile. That is absolutely crucial for the championship, and a very rare mistake there from the former race leader Gartson. He did make a mistake from the leader Imola as well, of course, we should remember. But that was even worse right there. But Dadswell, could give credit to him. He put pressure on the race leader and he fired an error.
wow. I thought we were in for a more mundane, quieter finish, with coming up to the last 10 minutes, Sam, but bit more wrong, really. It's all happening once more. I mean, I've got to really feel for Carter. He's had a bit of a torrid time. A few of the drivers have, but the interesting one for me, Sam, is just look who's in 4th overall. It's Hopkins. All it would take is one more mistake from one of our top 3, and we could see an AM driver on the podium overall here at Barber Motorsport Park. There's Chris Guchin. He's in class. He's heading to the pits for the second time. Although, if I remember, he did take that really early on pit stop, didn't he? I believe.
I think you're right, yeah.
Splash and dash to just get himself home.
Gooch was championship leader as well going into this round. Just a quick rundown of what the points were. Oh, he's gone a little bit too far as well. Should get away with that. So going into this round, Gooch was on 81 points, Crouch 66, Angelo 60, Kocho 59, Odom's 57, Reagan 57, sorry, as well. Hopkins was down in, I think, 10th place on 42, so Hopkins is out of the championship. I mean, he can win this round and won't be in play. But Crouch is very much in the championship. And the difference between first and second could be a few points. And Crouch could be right back into championship contention if he can make this move for the lead. Obviously, if Angelo could get involved as well, that would be big. But he's looking like he's way too far back unless something happens. So we could go into the final round potentially pretty much tied on points in the Amateur Championship if Crouch can get past Hopkins down to 2.3. But if anything, it's actually extending, isn't it? It was down to 1.8 at one point.
It was. It's incredibly close seeing these two. It's going to be a tall ask for Gannon to make it those 3 seconds to get up to the back of Dadswell with just under. Just coming to 8.5 minutes with actually left remaining now. The other interesting one is Barcella. He's been slowly crazy up. He's now only half a second on the back of Reagan, and the anchor's a little bit there for the Spaniard, Jose Barcella, and wow. I don't think he's got too much more body worth to lose off the front end of that Ferrari, Sam.
No. Totally gone. I didn't realise how fast these cars could be when they lose body work. I thought it was pretty much game over once that happened, but anything but. Barcella's been flying along. He could have certainly won this race, Barcella, in the amateur category. I mean, I think he has been the fastest amateur in this race. It's been a weird race in the amateur as he now spins around, and Reagan, I think, was a little bit wide in front of him, but Barcella getting onto that curb. You can take it 99 times, and that hurts you. And now Ben Bick is looking to get past. Ben Bick can't quite get past that Lamborghini. Looks so clean in comparison to the stricken Ferrari ahead of him, and yet Barcella continues to pump in the good times. And I doubt Barcella will be able to catch Reagan from here up to 6.5 seconds. We'll just have to consolidate that 5th position for the Spaniards. It's a shame for him to race to end like that. A shout out as well to one of the sponsor for this series, Asetek, and you may have seen the trailer earlier on for Asetek just before we went live for this broadcast. But you should check out Invicta, the hydraulic sim racing pedals from Asetek. Reviewers all agree these pedals feel like the pedals of a real race car. You can dive into all the glowing reviews at asetek.com/simsports/reviews. Huge thanks to Asetek for helping us out for this broadcast. Do make sure once again to check out asetek.com in order to check out the sim racing pedals if you want to feel like a real racing driver. As Gooch comes in again. Is that his 3rd time in the pits?
It is. It is.
I think that's a drive-through.
Well, it is indeed, isn't it?
Must have got the instant limit.
It's limit is here, but yeah, he's found it. and he's been hurt by it. And wow, it's easily done, isn't it, Sam? Across an hour, you know, but nearly 55 minutes in now, and it's so easily done. And look for a bit of luck there for Gooches that hasn't really lost any, you know, major amount of time or places. And I think one of the drivers who be happy to walk away from Barber and get that surround done and dusted. Looks like he's gonna finish in 16th place, down 9 places from where he started. Sam started all the way towards the front end of the grid, actually, in fairness, and one of the drivers had a real torrid time. I mean, retirees we've had so far: Garton, Fletcher, Pudico, Maury, Morgan, and Flanagan. Flanagan didn't even make it past first lap. Oh no!
That was a huge hit. Oh no, F3. And well, he hasn't gone over the barrier there because that was huge there from Barcella, and you can go over the barrier, although you wouldn't have that high speed of crash at turn 2 now. Sorry, turn 5. Now it's a bit later on, and we've seen, I think, one driver lose it around this part. Oh no, it wasn't even the grass actually that time, and then the barrier kind of grabs him there. If he was just a little bit further along, he would have slid across the circuit and rejoined at turn 5, I think. Now, that is a bit of an issue with this circuit.
There's Barcella into the pits here, Sam. And yeah, as you mentioned, that it's a surprise moments when someone appears out. It's, of course, the section that cuts up between the club circuit and also the short version of the circuits as well. Disaster really if he just suddenly appeared through that section in front of 2 other cars, and I'm not too sure actually. I think it might have been our leaders as well that he might have emerged out in front of. Would have been a bit of a controversial circumstances to end a race.
I mean, yeah, we've had a lot in this race. I can't remember ever someone taking up the race leader after spinning on the other side of the circuit. I don't think that's ever happened on Apex Racing 2. Sure, it's only a matter of time. I think if it is going to happen, it is going to be around the track. As Peck runs wide, well, that's just the new racing line, it seems. They didn't really lose too much time. But the incident limit so far this season has consistently been a problem. It was a huge issue at Imola. Oh, that's a very late move there from Kocho. I mean, that's the move that you dream of, but it's really to pull off. But we saw, yeah, half the drivers come into the pits at Imola for getting too many white X's. So far, not many drivers have had to come in this race. We've only seen the one, but I'm sure there's a few drivers on that 17 instant limit right now. As here comes Kocho again, he's almost got his car underneath. And Peck runs wide onto the grass. He was leaving his rival a little bit of space, went offline, and over the crest, lost grip. And that is Kocho back up to 6th position. This one is going to be raging on right to the check flag.
You say about Imola, it does not surprise me in the slightest there, Sam. So easy to pick off on tracks around there. So easy, you know, in terms of the 1X, and accumulate them and end up with a drive-through ultimately. There's just a bit of a look as well. Another battle we've got going out on track is Crouch is involved in. He's now within a second of Hopkins in front of him. Of course, for the lead in the AM category and 4th overall as well, Sam. Of course, when these two came out the pits, well, after their pit stops, of course, taking on alternate laps, Crouch came out was about 2 seconds behind Hopkins, and he's now closed that gap up to, as I mentioned, it was just under a second. It's now just over, but even so, he's right hot on his heels, and this is going to be the. I'm just looking where our leaders are now. The white flag, they've got this lap and another lap, and then it'll be the checkered flag. So, not long left now for Crouch if he wants to try and pull this victory out of the bag.
Yeah, he is. He's had a few good laps, albeit that time he actually lost a bit of time to Hopkins. I wonder if Hopkins was held behind by some traffic. And he's also got Bree there just behind. Our timing tower displaying the gaps between everyone in their classes, but not everyone sorts of overall, and so then you got Van Nylen there in third place. Reminded that the points are given out for your class position, not your overall position. So Hopkins won't gain points if he passes Van Nylen. However, of course, he is probably going to lose time if he waits behind. And Van Nylen doesn't want to let Hopkins pass because Bree is catching up very quickly behind him. Bree sees a pro class podium on the horizon here, but Van Nylen really on pace that he's got right now. Wonder if he's trying to save fuel or something. He took an average amount of fuel at his pit stop, but after being pretty quick earlier on, he is dropping into the clutches, and this could be just what Crouch needs, because Crouch is now catching up. What is the exit like for Van Nylen as they head past the white flag? I don't think Hopkins is going to be close enough for a move into turn 1, and Crouch keeps on gaining behind. He's only half a second behind.
I reckon Van Nylen may well have cooked his tyres here, Sam. It's the most logical explanation, where he's pushing hard, maybe trying to catch up with Dadswell and Gannon, who are headed right. Oh, big twitch over the brow of the hill from Gannon there. Just holds on to it in the Lamborghini, but that could have been disastrous from him and gifted Van Nylen second place potentially. But there we go. Round the corner for the final time.
And it is going to be Tom's Dadswell surely to put a hand and a half on the championship title for the second time in his career. Dadswell wins at Barber, and that is a huge win right there for him. Wasn't his best drive, he did make a mistake early on, but from then on he was absolutely perfect, and that move on Gannon in the first half of the race proved to be crucial. Van Nylen is holding on to third place. I think the tyres cooking is a very good explanation. Hopkins just needs to keep Crouch behind. That is his main focus right now. Van Nylen a little bit wide. He's going to hold up the BMW driver. Can Crouch go for a mugging right at the last? There goes Van Nylen. He's a little bit wide. He just needs to keep Bree behind him. It's going to be an overall podium, I think, for Hopkins in the end. Unless he just lets his rival back pass, they're going to be alongside across the line. But it's Hopkins who finishes in third place overall. Crouch was overtaken by Bree right at that final corner. However, in terms of the points, nothing changed there in the classes, and so there will be no change of points there. But Hopkins, what's a result for him? He would not have been expecting that going into the race, finishing in the end in the top 3 overall. And of course, Crucially getting that race win, and Crouch finishing P2 in the amateurs means that we are going to have a very close championship fight between Crouch and Gooch at the final round at Road America next week. But yeah, what a good performance there for Hopkins. He was pretty much the only driver out on circuit who didn't make a mistake. Him and Crouch, faultless.
Yeah, get their nose clean, and that's what it's all about half the time, Sam. Especially in a circuit like this, just keeping it, together, keeping your car clean, and you can save so much time by just doing that. It's always, crucial in the endurances, but also, at slightly longer races like this at the hour mark, just holding it together, being consistent is far more key rather than having blistering pace and then having a bit of a moment where you're trying to push and extend the track limits.
Yeah, they were really good out there. Smart driving, as you say. And, well, there was our final results. It was only half a second in the end between Dadswell and Gannon, but at least from what I was seeing, it seemed like Dadswell had sort of it managed throughout. I mean, Gannon caught up in those last couple of laps, but Dadswell had it under control. Beats Gannon right at the end. Hopkins in third place, seconds off the lead, ahead of Van Nylen, ahead of Timothy Bree, who was very quick near the end. Hopefully we see Bree that pace throughout the next round. Then it was Crouch finishing in 6th place. Christopher Carlson, you wonder where he would have been. Oh, probably 3rd place if it weren't for a couple of issues for him. He did have good pace to the Swede. Then it was Scott Angelo. After a poor qualifying, he managed to get onto the amateur podium. Probably his championship chances over now, Angelo. It's very unlikely he'll be able to come back at Road America. Well, maybe if something happens to Crouch and Gooch at the last round, he could quickly make a late attack. Reagan was 1 lap down. Ben Bickgrounds at the top 10. Then it was Kocho, Knudsen, Peck, Carter. He had exciting race. I think he might have had the fastest amateur lap of the race actually, Carter. Really quick. But yeah, just kept on getting stuck, couldn't overtake anyone. Barchala, he was so quick as well. But he made a lot of mistakes, that was his downfall. 2 laps down was Sotso and Gooch. And then the retirees, all the pros. Gartson, Fletcher, Pudicom, Morgan, Maury, and Flanagan. See there, 44 laps down, got barely any laps under his belt at all, as we should get some interviews with some of our drivers. Quick shout out though once again to FindingSpeed, who organise events on iRacing and also organise track guides, how-to videos for iRacing enthusiasts. And you can join us, of course, next Saturday for the final race of the season in the FindingSpeed GT3 League. That will be at Road America. And if you are interested in racing next season, there will be some details about how to sign up soon. Or you can join the mailing list at findingspeed.com, and that way you will be emailed when registrations open. So we will get some interviews with some drivers. Now, okay, at the moment we've got a driver called Leroy Hobbit in the waiting area. Now, as magically it changes. Thank goodness. We've got Tom Dadswell. Thank goodness, changing his name. And we'll check him up to have a chat with now. Tom, congratulations. A race win out there, but I imagine that felt a very long way away when you had that spin in the early stages.
Yeah, I mean, that whole race was just intense. Like, I don't like this track in GT3 cars is just something else. Just keeping it on the road is the hardest part.
It certainly seemed to be the case with all the other spins out there. I mean, most drivers had an issue at some point in the race. It certainly looked very tricky on the hot surface. We were a bit confused, or at least I was very confused about the pace up there, because it seemed like in qualifying you were a fair bit behind Callum, and then in the race, sort of about half the way through the race, all of a sudden you were catching him hand over fist. I mean, can you explain why that was? Was it just a poor qualifying lap, or was it tyre wear? I mean, yeah, can you put your finger on it?
Yeah, so I think the main reason for that was I didn't have time to practice for tonight because I've been on holiday for the last week and I just got back today. So the only practice that I'd done was in the session just before this for like an hour.
That makes a lot of sense. So yeah, you're just getting faster and faster as the race went on. We were sort of keeping half an eye on the gap between yourself and Patrick near the closing stages. Were you just controlling that? Was it always in your control, or were you getting a bit nervous near the end as he was catching?
So I thought I had it under control for like 5 laps after the pit stop, and I saw he was gaining like half a second, 3/10, 2/10, and I was like, okay, I really need to get a move on here. And the last couple of laps, he just closed in so fast, and I just hadn't. Like, I think one more lap, he definitely would have got me. He was flying at the end.
Yeah, he was. He seemed to get stronger and stronger throughout as well. And yeah, just half a second in the end, the gap between you two. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to, Tom?
Yeah, so all our sponsors, Asetek, SimStickers, Bream, SimRacing Studios. Yeah, just everyone at Altitude as well for being such a great team.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Tom, and hopefully you can consolidate the championship next week at Ridham.
Cheers, thank you.
Tom Dadswell there, your race winner tonight. I think that's his first race win of the season. I'm not 100% sure. It was Gartz in the last couple of rounds, and then Fletcher the round before that. But championship leader, strong lead going into the final round of the championship. He is going to be very, very tricky to beat. Tim, would you like to have a chat with Glenn Hopkins?
I most certainly would. The Samsung Blue driver, the BMW M4 amateur driver, finishing on the podium overall. I mean, yes, it doesn't make any difference to the points that you accumulate, Glenn, but I mean, that's a cracking scalp as an AM driver to finish on the podium overall.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, that was that hour went in a blur. That was fantastic. Honestly, don't remember much. The last lap was insane.
Well, it was. I mean, you seem to be catching Van Nylen at an absolute, massive rate of knots. Was it? Could you see it? Was it from mistakes or his tyres looking like they're gone? Because that's what it looked like. It looked like more the latter from up here in the commentary box.
Yeah, definitely tyres. That's something I practiced for the last fortnight. Really, was trying to conserve the tyre because I knew this would happen, especially with the track temps the way they were. And it sort of worked out. I had my pace at the start of the race, and yeah, tyres went off for the other boys. Mine weren't that great either, to be honest, but I got there. Really
Definitely.
happy.
I mean, you had Brad Crouch, catching you. Obviously, he made up about a second of you during the cycle of pit stops, and then started to make a bit of progress and started to whittle the time down. I think when he came out of the boat, he after the pit stops, I think the gap was down to 2 seconds, and then by the end it was down to just under a second. Were you ever feeling nervous at all, or do you feeling quite confident? Because of course, Barber being a track where it's quite hard to overtake at.
It is quite hard to pass. You got to be committed to get past someone. But yeah, I was sweating. I could see him coming. He drove well, but we held the tyres in there. Got a fuel strategy. It worked. Everything worked. Like a big redemption from Zolder. I screwed up really big there. So this has been worth it.
Yeah, definitely some redemption for you. And before we let you go, Glenn, anyone you want to give a shout out to at all?
Just all the boys in the Samsoid Blue team and the Samsoid community, full stop. And obviously you guys for the good job you do with your broadcast. Thank you. Oh, and obviously Russell Barnes, he's put on a good event.
Definitely. Second that one as well. That's Glenn Hopkins, your winner in AM, and also finishing on the podium overall here at Barber Motorsport Park. Well, that's just trying to see if there's anyone else we can grab hold of. I don't think there is.
Everyone else is a little bit shy. Once again, a reminder, I know that different leagues have sorts of different rules about, the race winners have to go for an interview, but honestly, even if you don't win, have a chat anyway. As long as we have a little bit of time, we can always have a chat with any of the drivers. Helps us to put a name to our voice. So it's always great to have your insight if any drivers are listening back to that. But I think that pretty much is it for us, Tim. Next week is Road America, very different to this circuit, of course, and that will be the championship finale. And personally, I cannot wait for that amateur championship battle. I mean, Hopkins, again, I'm kind of just doing the calculations off the top of my head, but as far as I can figure out, Hopkins and Gooch are going to be pretty much neck and neck on points. Judging by this race, you'd back Hopkins to take the title, but I know Gooch needs to just get back on form, and then he might have a chance at still winning that title.
Well, of course, Gooch didn't have the best day at the races today, Sam, and finished 10 places down from where he started, in 17th, and definitely not to remember for him. And I think it's going to be a real tight tussle between those two at the top of AM at Road America, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that one pans out, because it could go absolutely any way.
Yeah, it sure could. The Pro Championship looking a little bit more safe for Tom Dadswell, but well, you never know. If he gets involved in a couple of crashes, it could still be open. Of course, the other positions will be very close as well. Of course, make sure to tune in next week. There's not a break week, everyone. It is next week, the final rounds of the championship at Road America here in the FindingSpeed GT3 League Season 4. Where we will crown our champions. Once again, big thanks to Russell Barnes, of course, for putting this event on. Do make sure to go check out the FindingSpeed YouTube channel if you are currently watching on Apex Racing TV. Really a good way to improve your iRacing performance, and of course, terrific events and leagues that Russell puts on. And also thanks to Asetek, the sponsor for this broadcast. Do make sure to check out asetek.com for more details about them. And of course, if you've enjoyed this video, do leave a like on it. Subscribe to Apex Racing TV, got lots more action coming up. We had F3s earlier on. I think F3.5 probably over now, but may just be coming to an end, in fact, elsewhere on the channel. Also got Spec Racer Ford tomorrow. Got GT3 Pro Trophy on Tuesday. Got AFLTC coming back fairly soon as well. Lots of official shows, lots of league racing for American and European time zones. So do subscribe to the channel, click the notification button so you know when we go live, and also check out our social media as well on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. But for now, from myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Sam Kume, and from Tim Cox, we are going to say goodbye, and we will see you back next time at Road America. See you then.